America wealthy again.
It's not any sort of a named dance. It's some sort of a wiggle.
It's the day special.
Is it the day special? Sorry. It's no day special. I see it every day. Welcome
Good morning
to Fox and Friends on this Saturday morning. We are really excited to have Ebony K. Williams on the couch with us this morning.
On the couch.
We got it started an hour ago, but we're just starting the top of this hour, and it's been a lot of fun. How's it going? How do you like it?
So far, so great.
Oh, you have fun?
So far, so great. Yes. See what I did there?
Great. That's right.
Yes, yes. Making America great and making Fox and Friends on the couch great. And by the way, if you are just waking up, President had a little rally in Florida last night. And
just a little one.
Just in case.
If little means huge.
Huge. If you missed it, here's a little bit of what happened.
Let me begin by wishing each and every one of you a very Merry Christmas, right? And I can think of no better Christmas present for the American people than giving you a massive tax cut. It's time for Congress to adopt a pro-American immigration agenda. Every member of Congress should be asked where they stand on these issues. We want people that are going to protect your gun rights, great trade deals instead of the horrible deals. And we want jobs, jobs, jobs. So get out and vote for Roy Moore. Do it. Oh, these resistors resist. Hillary resisted, and you know what happened? She lost the election in a landslide. Germany's paying 1%. We're paying 4%. So I said to Angela, Angela, send a little of that cash flow our way. I've said it so often that my job is not to be president of the world. My job is to be president of the United States of America. Yet there are powerful forces in Washington trying to sabotage our movement. Our revolution didn't end on November 8th. That was just the beginning. The greatest adventure still lies ahead. Never give in, never give up, never back down, and never, ever stop dreaming.
A lot of common themes there, although that may be the first time I believe that he has spoken directly to Angela Merkel. Ebony K. Williams?
You gotta love that accent. Oh, my goodness.
What did you think? What was your takeaway? What stood out to you?
Well, you know, I think the president was very successful, guys, in really reiterating this us versus them theme. You know, with the us, of course, being Americans, and them being anything that's not American, hence America's first, resonating loudly in that speech, making sure that we get the best part of the trade deals, making sure our economy is strong, talking about American military needs. And again, it's hard to argue against it. It's something that's economically so successful thus far. It's hard to argue with the job numbers and certainly the economic growth numbers.
Yeah, it's a great point. And you can see, even at the end of the event, we had snow falling in Alabama. I think that was...
It was on cue.
I don't know if it was real or on cue, but one of the themes last night was Merry Christmas. Of course, taking on the wet blanket of political correctness has been a huge theme of this president, as has taking on what he calls the fake news media, these cultural critiques. But you raise a great point. He stood on that podium saying, a year into my presidency, your jobs are back, manufacturing's coming back, we're cutting better trade deals, we're telling Angela, you better pay for NATO because we're not just going to pay for all of your security. You can't piggyback on us anymore. He also, sort of what we're going to talk a little bit about is the critique he made about the rigged system.
Right.
He talked about powerful forces in Washington trying to sabotage our movement. The swamp has been very deep, and he continues to hit that thing.
Now, those forces, let's just give a little bit of context because this is a common theme, but we've had several instances, the most recent, CNN absolutely botching the WikiLeaks Don Jr. story on just getting a date wrong. WikiLeaks released on September 14th the information, the 13th, and the 14th is when he got it, basically a day after it was released, but CNN said it was a full 10 days earlier, a big mistake, and of course ABC, President Trump mentioned it, Brian Ross, reporting that Flynn was going to testify directly against the president. And
every time it was a new smoking gun.
But it wasn't just that. There was another story involving subpoenaing Deutsche Bank for President Trump's records. Not the case, turned out. And so you have both the situation with members of Mueller's special counsel team having issues of credibility, as well as the, quote, mainstream media making major mistakes with the biggest story of the year, the Russia probe.
I think you're right, and we're going to toss to this clip about the rig system, but I think they're all, on November 27th, I'm telling you, the president tweeted that they should have a contest of who receives the fake news trophy, and they're all just working really hard to get the President Trump's first fake news trophy.
Well, we asked Dan Bongino about that. Here's a little bit of what he had to say.
If you were trying to discredit this operation, I mean, seriously, if you had a checklist going like, how do we make the Mueller special counsel investigation completely irrelevant? Hey, I've got an idea. Let's hire A, B, C, D, and E. It's like they did every single one of these steps. I mean, Trump ran on draining the swamp, not fertilizing the swamp, and that's what they did. They brought a bunch of anti-Trump swamp rats in there to investigate Trump, and now they wonder why no one takes it seriously.
Dan's a little fired up on Saturday morning.
And we're going to bring more, later on in this hour, more parts of what the president said about the rigged and sick system. He really did double down on that, indicting what he's been facing in Washington, D.C.
Absolutely. And then, you know, again, us versus them. There's a certain stem of Republicans that's become a part of the them coalition as well. Senator Jeff Flake, of course, in Arizona, putting out that tweet saying, system's not sick, Mr. President. And I think just
donating
adding
to
fuel,
Roy Moore's opponent as well.
$100, yeah, and just adding fuel to this fire that there's a takeout for President Trump, and his base is going to line up firmly behind him.
So you bring up Jeff Flake, though. You're a lawyer. Like, let's go in Ebony K. Williams' court with Judge Ebony K. Williams. You deal with facts. The fact is CNN got a story wrong recently. The fact is ABC really got a story wrong. The fact is these mistakes keep being made on the biggest story of the year, the Russia probe. So when Jeff Flake says it's not a rigged system and knocks the president for his claim, the facts don't show that.
Here's the issue. Everybody makes mistakes. None of us are perfect. People are human. The problem, though, when you are a mainstream news organization in this particular climate, right, in this climate, those mistakes matter. They matter big because they undermine overwhelming suspicion that's already permeating, right, around people's where they fall. Are they being open? Are they being objective when it comes to President Trump?
Just like when it matters that we find out that Andrew Weissman, who's a part of the special counsel, attended Hillary Clinton's, well, it was going to be a victory party.
Would be celebration party.
Celebration party on election night. I mean, how can you not feel like, whether it's the fake media or the what I call now, along with a few others, the special impeachment counsel, that's what they're trying to do. They're going after him and impugning his presidency. But the president, as he always does, goes back to core and first principles, talking last night about America first and the military. Take a listen.
We believe the United States military is the greatest force for justice in the history of the world, and we are going to take care of it. We believe that every American should stand for the national anthem. We don't sing a global anthem. Our troops don't wear a foreign uniform. We proudly sing the Star-Spangled Banner. Our brave troops fight and die for the red, white, and blue, and we protect and preserve the American Constitution that we cherish.
We don't sing a global national anthem. That would be something. You know, it was actually a rally when the NFL kneeling thing came
up. It would be something, except it is something. In our high schools and our colleges, our kids are being taught that they're global citizens before they're American citizens. And parents and grandparents are hearing that, and they're afraid that we're losing our country, that we're losing our love and appreciation for the most exceptional nation on earth. That is what he speaks to. That's why that portion of the speech, we don't have global uniforms, we don't sing a global anthem, we don't have open borders, we support our military, the elites don't run our country. That resonates with people because
And you know what's sad, though, Pete, is that it's got to be either or. What about being proud Americans, owning that, taking that proud patriotism, and contributing and benefiting from our global interest? How about
that is going to be what people talk about all day long as they hear about it. And in addition to that, we got some headlines,
Got some headlines for you. Turning now to your headlines and the Fox News Alert. President Trump declaring a state of emergency, ordering federal aid to California as out-of-control wildfires ravage the state. This as the first fire-related death is confirmed. A 70-year-old woman found dead at the site of a car crash along an evacuation route in Ventura County. Medical examiners say she died from injuries sustained in the crash, smoke inhalation, and burns. And another Fox News alert. Iraq now totally liberated from ISIS, a major declaration coming just this morning. A senior Iraqi military commander announcing the end of the years-long war against the violent insurgents, claiming his troops now fully control the border with Syria. The Islamic State overran nearly a third of the country in 2014. Iraqi forces fighting back ever since with strong backing from the U.S. And now turning to extreme weather. The Northeast bracing for several inches of snow after the same storm system slammed the South. The winter blast giving some areas the heaviest snowfall in decades, creating a travel nightmare. Up to 6 inches falling in Atlanta. Delta Airlines canceling hundreds of flights as a result. And the snow knocking out power for more than 250,000 customers across the South. And bah humbug, it appears leaders at a North Carolina senior living community are being Scrooges. All Christmas and holiday decorations now banned, including wreaths and signs. Property managers say the controversy started earlier this year when residents apparently posted offensive and defensive messages on their doors.
It's one of those things where, like,
so grumpy.
one person does something really stupid and then they overreact and everything's bad.
And everybody's got to pay the price. No,
Yeah.
wreaths.
You're
no,
North
man.
Carolina. You're from Charlotte, North Carolina. What's going on
We're the
down there?
Bible Belt. I'm actually surprised to hear that. I mean, obviously, I live in New York now, and my neighbor has a beautiful silver wreath up, and I just told her,
Right.
thank you. Thank you for adding some festivities around here.
That's right. Just a little bit of festivity. Everybody enjoys
We
it.
gotta
Nobody loses, right?
We got to talk about this, and we also got to talk about more concerns about the Russia investigation. The federal judge ruling on Mike Flynn's case just recused himself, but nobody really knows why. J. Christian Adams on that next.
And skier Lindsey Vonn says she will represent Americans at the Olympic, just not President Trump. The Olympic hero, the man behind Miracle on Ice, hockey legend Mike Eruzione. I butchered his last name, and I shouldn't because he's a really famous dude. Here to respond, coming up on Fox and Friends on this Saturday morning. Don't miss it.
Welcome back. More Clinton connections emerging for members of special counsel Robert Mueller's investigative team. According to the Wall Street Journal, Mueller investigator Andrew Weissmann was at Hillary Clinton's election night party.
Meanwhile, at least 2 Mueller investigators' past legal work for Clinton-tied figures is now getting a second look.
So what does this mean for the investigation going forward? Here with more is former DOJ official J. Christian Adams. Christian, good morning. What do you say here?
This is just the tip of the iceberg. There's more. But look, this is Eric Holder's big payoff. Holder institutionalized and normalized political law enforcement at the Justice Department. It's so bad these people don't even think they're doing anything wrong. This is just normal. I mean, one of the people on Mueller's team, Aaron Zelensky, is a Huffington Post blogger. Go read his stuff. This guy is hardcore left-wing. He is the guy prosecuting Michael Flynn on that case. But it's way worse than that. This is a situation where you have these ideological leftists, these Democrats, these swamp creatures running the entire show. From Rod Rosenstein's office down to Mueller's team, they think they're doing everything okay. It's okay to think like they do and still prosecute the president's people.
But Christian, let's talk specifically about the news about Andrew Weissmann, one of the investigators, going to or planning to go to a Hillary Clinton victory party. Do you have a problem with that?
It's not even surprising. Look, when I was at the Justice Department, you had ethical guidelines for lawyers, and lawyers could not insert themselves into jobs where their politics were in question, where there might be bias. And unfortunately, everybody seems to be biased on this investigation. And Rod Rosenstein, who's the Deputy Attorney General, can't seem to get it under control. He needs to pick up the phone, tell Robert Mueller that people like Aaron Zelensky and all of the people you featured need to go, or Rosenstein needs to go, period.
But, Christian, isn't it true that no matter who's actually in office, this becomes a problem no matter who's actually in control, right? No matter which side of the aisle is leading. So wouldn't it be better? No, that's not true?
No, absolutely not.
Okay, tell me why.
Because the department from stem to stern during the Holder era was radicalized, normalized partisanship.
Okay, but let's go before Obama.
There.
Christian, let's go before Obama's administration. And you talked about the ethical regulations that were in place at the DOJ during your tenure there. Don't you think it would be a great idea if we got rid of this issue regardless of party? And therefore, if you're in the DOJ and you're acting as an attorney or something like that, you don't have a political stance, you don't make contributions to campaigns, and you don't show up to candidates' celebration parties.
Yeah, bingo. You nailed something there. You shouldn't make contributions. Look, I made them when I was there, but I always found it to be odd that it would be okay. There's very few areas at DOJ where you can't make contributions. But here's an even lower standard. How about don't blog at the Huffington Post and then prosecute Mike Flynn? How about that as a basic standard? Hey, don't be a Soros fellow and get hired by Rod Rosenstein to run the Deputy Attorney General's office.
But my point is, it doesn't really matter, though, if you're blogging for the Huffington Post or the Washington Examiner. I think the point we could hopefully all agree on is that you shouldn't be taking editorial positions and then acting in an objective role. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, you shouldn't be contributing to Hillary and then looking into allegations regarding her opponent's campaign. That's another really low standard that Robert Mueller and Rod Rosenstein should have implemented.
I got to jump in here as the non-lawyer in this group, and that is it's still a big deal as well. We didn't really get to it, but the judge that took Mike Flynn's guilty plea recusing himself, that's going to be a big story as well. J. Christian Adams, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Christian.
All right, coming up, skier Lindsey Vonn says she will represent Americans at the Olympics, but not President Trump. Our next guest is the man behind the Miracle on Ice, hockey legend Mike Eruzione, here to react next.
We're back now with a Fox News alert. President Trump declaring a state of emergency in California as out-of-control wildfires ravage the state.
Will Carr's live in Ventura County with what firefighters are up against this morning. Will, good morning. It's a tough story. What have you got out there?
Absolutely. Good morning, Griffin, Ebony. We've learned about the first fatality that happened in this community. A woman was racing away down these streets and got in a car crash because the fire just came in so quickly, burning so hot. You can see this car charred, the door knocked off here. This is actually part of this home's garage now twisted around the car. When you walk back up, you can see what's left. This home burned to the ground. Almost 500 structures burned in this fire. To the south in San Diego County, we've learned more than 100 structures have now burned. In the Lilac fire, also a horse training facility burned. In parts of that, more than 24 horses died. Now, the good news is the firefighters got a break in the elements yesterday. Take a look at how they used that to their advantage.
Fire crews are trying to take advantage of a lull in the winds. They have numerous helicopters out here, and they're attacking the hillside behind me, filling up with water at a nearby lake. The thought process is if they can knock some of these flames down while the winds are low, they won't be able to push the embers later in the day if the winds pick up down the road and start those other spot fires that have given the firefighters and nearby residents so many problems.
And this community really hoping for another good day of weather, but it is a red flag warning both today and tomorrow, and we're supposed to have strong winds, the strongest tomorrow. Griffin, Ebony, back to you.
Thank you, Will.
Thanks, Will. That's tough, those San Diego winds.
Oh, my, that footage looks like it's out of a movie.
I get it every year. All right, best for them out there. Pete, trust you down there?
Guys. Yep. We'll take it from here. Olympic gold medalist skier Lindsey Vonn says she's going to the Winter Olympics, but she won't be there to represent President Trump.
Well, I hope to represent the people of the United States, not the president. I don't think there are a lot of people currently in our government that do that.
Would you accept an invitation to the White House if you were to win Olympic gold in Pyeongchang?
Absolutely not.
She's not going to the White House. Well, our next guest has experienced winning gold as the captain of the 1980 U.S. Hockey's Miracle on Ice team. So what does he think about Lindsey Vonn's position? U.S. hockey legend Mike Eruzione on this morning joins us now on Fox & Friends. Sir, good morning. Congratulations again, 37 years later. It was a cultural phenomenon for this country that we will never forget. So when that happened, presumably you were invited to the White House as a part of that. Whether you agreed or disagreed, did you go? And what do you think of Lindsey Vonn's declaration that preemptively she's not going?
Well, first of all, we had the honor of going to the White House, and if you remember, at a very difficult time, President Carter had announced that they were boycotting the summer games. So a lot of Olympians weren't very happy with President Carter and his decision to not send our athletes to the summer games after these athletes had trained for years. So it was a very difficult time going to the White House because of that particular reason. And I think, the first question I got when I got to the White House was, what do you think of the boycott? And, I'm kind of an old school guy. I respect the presidency. I respect the White House. I respect who was in that White House. And we went as a team and as a group of athletes, and it was unbelievable. It was an honor. But I also respect Lindsey. If that's her decision, she feels that way. That's what makes this country so great. I disagree. Again, I think you do represent the United States, and you represent our president and the White House and the people that stay in the White House. So if it's her choice not to go, that's fine. But, boy, I'll tell you, I treasured my visit.
Mike, I mean, I think a lot of people resonate with your old school approach. Hey, he's the president of the United States. We're going to go. I may not agree. And you guys even had a personal grievance as Olympians about the fact that the training's so long you're not going to be able to go. But you say you respect this move. The question is, and you respect the right not to go. Of course, everyone does, just like they have the right to kneel if they want to. But what's to respect about this idea that, you know, I'm not going to go see the president. I am above that, or he's below me. What's respectful about that?
Well, I think that's the thing that kind of frustrates you a little is you know, he's somebody that we should respect. Whether you agree or disagree with his politics, he was elected by the people of this country. And I think we should go and support his wishes as far as if he wants to invite the Olympic athletes to come to the White House and be a part of a ceremony or a celebration. So, again, like I told you, I'm an old school guy. If the president wants me to come to his house, I'm coming.
It's an extrapolation, but after what happened with Colin Kaepernick, it's not too far of an extrapolation. Are you concerned at all about if some of these Olympic athletes say, hey, I'm not here, this is not my president, I'm not going to the White House? Do you think we could see a scenario where one of these Olympic athletes wins gold and then takes a knee on the podium?
Oh, boy, I would hate to see that. And, again, I think you have the right to express your concerns about what's happening in this country, but I think there's a time and a place for that, and I don't believe standing on the Olympic podium after you've received the gold medal to see your flag being risen just a little higher than all the other countries. I would not like to see that. But
what's that like? What's that like? I mean, not only to be at the Olympics to serve your country, you beat the Soviets, which is pretty darn awesome. But what does it feel like to represent your country?
It's a great honor. You put the USA jersey on, you know, you're not representing Boston or Chicago. You know, I'm a Patriots fan or a Red Sox fan.
We'll forgive you.
But it's not Boston and Chicago. It's the United States. And it's a great honor to be there, to represent your country. And as I said earlier, when you're in that building, especially us in Lake Placid, and everybody singing the Star-Spangled Banner, it was an incredible and awesome and proud moment.
America was singing it with you that incredible year. Mike Eruzione, thank you very much for your time this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Pete. Have a good day.
You too. All right, still ahead. This is no joke. Liberal comedian Sarah Silverman says she's afraid of the American flag.
He was hoisting an American flag up the flagpole in his front yard. And I instantly felt very weird.
Really? Really? Plus, speaking of resistance, President Trump fighting them and the rigged system inside the swamp at his Florida rally. It's what Corey Lewandowski has said all along, and he is next on Fox and Friends. And it might be empty now, but Lincoln Financial Field will soon be filled with patriotic fans for the 118th Army-Navy game. We are there live, as you know we would be, coming up on this Saturday morning edition. Stay with us.
This is a rigged system. This is a sick system from the inside. And, you know, there's no country like our country, but we have a lot of sickness in some of our institutions, and we're working very hard. We've got a lot of them straightened out.
President Trump speaking there in Pensacola last night. In case you missed it, a whole lot there, and that is why we're checking in with Corey Lewandowski, Chief Strategist for America First Policies. Corey, I got to know, what do you think? Now, you're the author of your recent book, Let Trump Be Trump, and we know we're going to talk about that, but here we haven't had a rally since September. What did you make of last night?
Well, this is vintage Donald Trump. I love this. This is Donald Trump bypassing the mainstream media. He talked about it last night and going directly to the American people with his message of hope, growth, and opportunity. Look at what he's talked about. The fake news stories that we've seen, the stock market through the roof, unemployment lowest in generations. This is Donald Trump going to the people and reminding them the success that he's had in his first year as the president.
Now, Corey, he talked about a sick system, a rigged system, full of people out to get him. Who is he referring to the most? Is this Bob Mueller? Is this the FBI? Is this the DOJ? Is this the fake news media? I mean, the totality of what he's faced. Put that into context for us.
Well, it's all of it. Look, it's the deep state. It's those holdovers in the government who are still there from the Obama administration. It's the FBI agents, and let me say this, 99.99% of these guys and women are the best in the business, but we find out now that we've got one agent, maybe two, right, who are in charge of the Clinton investigation, changing what the wording should be, not putting Huma Abedin under oath, not putting Cheryl Mills under oath, different sets of rules for different sets of people. Mike Flynn lies to the FBI, he's a felon. Hillary, Cheryl, and Huma lie, it's okay, don't worry about it. That is the problem, and those are the people that are trying to take down this president.
Corey, let me ask you this. So the resistance we know is Hillary Clinton and her followers, I suppose. I feel like this is essentially what her campaign was, right? It was a campaign, a presidential election touted on resistance, obviously an epic failure from a campaign. If you're someone who doesn't agree with the president's policies, what would be your suggestion as to what they could do that's going to be effective? Because obviously resistance isn't working.
Look, I think they should keep electing people like Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi because they've done such a bang-up job. I think they should make sure that Al Franken stays in the U.S. Senate to continue to grope women, right? This is what they should do because the Democratic Party is so lost for ideas. They are a party now that is bifurcated on the far west coast and the far east coast of the country. They've lost all of middle America because they have no ideas, and all they want to do is stop the American economy from growing.
Corey, you mentioned the fake news media. Let me just quickly say that now we have multiple instances, CNN on the WikiLeaks, you have ABC on the Mike Flynn story and some other things involving Deutsche Bank subpoenaing the Trump family. Wrong. So why does this matter now? Why was last night more significant? And do you believe that it's going to continue to be a theme the president's going to hit?
Well, this is very important because when you look at the election results and you look at post-election, 97% of the respondents to a media research survey said they didn't allow the media's bias to influence their voting habit because the media has lost all of their credibility by and large, whether it's CNN or it's a reporter at ABC or it's the false story about a subpoena at Deutsche Bank. You know, what happens is these outlets want to make the news and not report the news. And they're so quick to make bad news that they have to go and apologize. It has taken them so long, and the only thing they understand is the backlash by the American people who said it's time to get it right or have accountability.
Corey, trying to get a pulse of the people here. The president put out a tweet about 10 days ago saying that we should have a contest for the fake news trophy. Who's in the lead for the horse race for the fake news trophy right now, Corey?
Well, it's a tough one, but look, if you look at ABC News, look, they should have fired this guy, obviously. He single-handedly had the stock market drop 350 points because of a false news story. So right now, I think if we go week to week, they may be the biggest losers of the week. Maybe it's a new TV show.
To that point about biggest losers, when some of these outlets get this so wrong, don't you think it really helps the president in his arguments about the fake news narrative that's out to get him?
Well, it does help the president, but doesn't help America is the problem, right? It helps the president because it shows how right he is and how wrong the media is. But they have an obligation to get the story straight. That's their obligation as journalists and as reporters and to the American people, because it's not fair to the American people to have to hear directly from our president that the news is wrong again. The news should have accountability, and suspending a guy for 4 weeks over Christmas isn't really much of a consolation prize.
Corey, we've got another story about James Comey. We'll have to get you another time. He's cryptically tweeting. Why is James Comey cryptically tweeting at this president right now?
Well, because Jim Comey is a liar. He's lied under oath. We know that. The morale under the FBI is something that he wants to rewrite revisionist history, right? He says integrity and honor, and the FBI agents have it. But I think we have to question Jim Comey's honor and integrity because under congressional testimony, he's told us, point blank, that he leaked information to the media to make sure it got out. That is illegal as an FBI agent, and I want to know why the Justice Department isn't investigating.